Lillahi ta'ala, correct your intentions. Barakallahu fikum. Let's continue in reviewing the explanation of the Baykuni poem in hadith terminology. Here's the Baykuni poem on the left side. And we are still on the fourth line. Bismillah. We are still on the fourth line here in terms of what's in the explanation, which is on the right side. And so, starting from the second line, the author said, وَذِي مِنَ قُسَامِ الْحَدِيثِ عِدَّةً. These lines, the lines of this poem, include major divisions of hadith, as well as subdivisions and hadith topics, as opposed to a particular type of hadith, a topic or a field in hadith. وَذِي مِنَ قُسَامِ الْحَدِيثِ عِدَّةً وَكُلُّ وَاحِدٍ أَتَى وَحَدَّةً. And each one, ata, came, Sheikh al-DaabiT said, means ya'ti, comes. وَكُلُّ وَاحِدٍ أَتَى, came, meaning ya'ti, comes, وَحَدَّ, with its definition. Az-Zurqani said, or an example, أَوَّلُهَا الصَّحِيح, the first of these types, which is the main type, the most important type, and the preferred type, is the sound hadith. وَهُوَ مَتَّصَلْ, sound here. So the author is going to define, as you know, the hadith that is صَحِيحٌ لِذَاتِهِ, sound by itself, independently sound, does not need something else to make it sound. In order to be sound by itself, there are 5 conditions. If it needed something else to be sound, then there would be a 6th condition, which is that reinforcement, the 6th thing. So we're not talking about a hadith that is sound by other than itself, but that's going to come in Sheikh al-DaabiT's explanation. Now we're talking about a hadith when he says, أَوَّلُهَا الصَّحِيح. Here, this sahih, أَوَّلُهَا الصَّحِيح. What he means by sahih here is authentic by itself. And also, as Zurqani told us something that he means when he says sahih here, he means the one not only is independently sound, but this, what's going to be defined as a sahih hadith here, is what is sahih by consensus. What is authentic or sound by consensus. So it's possible that there's some scholars of hadith, their requirement for a sound hadith falls short of these conditions to some degree. But this amount of conditions, these 5 conditions, no one amongst the people of hadith disagree about them. So, أَوَّلُهَا الصَّحِيح, the first of the aqsam, the first of the types is as-sahih, the sound hadith, or the authentic hadith. وَهُوَ مَا اتصل إسناده, it is that which its chain connected or was continuous. It's isnad. And we know isnad here has, the word isnad in hadith science has 2 meanings. Not here in the poem. In the hadith science, the word isnad has 2 meanings. Either it refers to citing each person in the chain one by one. So we're going to call that citing the chain. Like to say, Fulan told me that he heard from Fulan, from Fulan, from Fulan. That's one meaning of isnad. And another meaning of isnad is the sanad, which is just the chain as one thing, not citing each person one by one, but all of the people in the chain as a link, and that whole chain is one thing. The meaning of isnad here in the poem is the first one. وَهُوَ مَا اتصل إسناده, it is that which its isnad is continuous, meaning the citation of its narrators. No one is missing from the chain. Each person cited in the chain heard from the one before him. اتصل إسناده ولم يشذ, and it was not irregular or anomalous. You know what that means? We will also review it again, inshallah. أو يعل, nor was it defective, meaning nor was it obscurely defective. That's what Sheikh Al-Jabarti said is the intent here in the poem. Oh, yu'al, or defective, yani, nor defective, nor obscurely defective in a way that discredits the report. What did Az-Zurqani say? He said, this means, oh, yu'al, nor defective here in this poem means neither defective obscurely nor obviously. For if the obscure defect would discredit the report, then the obvious defect would discredit the report. And Sheikh Al-Jabarti says, no, that's not really the intent here. The intent here is merely, nor is it obscurely defective, because that's the standard talk of the hadith scholars. Yani, let me give you a scenario that makes it even clearer for you, inshallah. When we say, when the scholars say this hadith is ma'lul, or the likes, yani, defective, when they say this hadith is defective, we are saying they mean obscurely defective, and they don't mean obviously defective. And what we said is that whenever a hadith has an obvious defect, then what would they do? They would actually just call it by the name of that defect, not call it defective. And it would be not when it has an obvious defect that they would call it defective. So maybe you might say, okay, like what? So it would be, for example, like you meet a Wahhabi and he tells you something against the religion. And he produces for you a hadith and tells you this hadith is narrated by Bukhari or Muslim or someone, Ibn Hibban or Al-Hakim or Ibn Khuzaymah or someone else. And this hadith is like against what you have learned, different from what you know. And he tells you, yeah, this is authentic hadith. Here, look, I'll show it to you. And he opens for you the book, show it to you right in your face. And then you might have to then say to him, okay, I'm going to have to get back to you then. You don't know what to say then. So then you go and ask. And then the answer would be, what? This hadith is defective. So what does that mean? It means there's something wrong with the hadith. There's something in the hadith problematic, as opposed to had you checked the hadith and then it was said, this hadith has someone missing from the chain, a non-continuous chain. This hadith is irregular, or this hadith is such and such. No, rather, the scholarly comment on that hadith might be, this hadith is defective. So what does that mean? That means, I need to clarify for you. There's a problem in this hadith. What he means to say is, yeah, there is hadith narrated like this, but there is something obscurely wrong with it. And then he will have to explain for you. He might say, because in this hadith, it was said that it was narrated from Fulan, and that Fulan, what some scholars said about Fulan, such and such, and then it will clarify for you what the problem is. So this is the meaning of saying, nor is it defective. Defective is a kind of generic word here. Okay, so inshallah, that's clear. If you have a question, feel free, please. So, وَهُوَ مَتَّصَلْ إِسْنَادُهُ. It is that which its isnad was continuous. That's first condition. وَلَمْ يَشُذْ. And nor was it anomalous. That's second condition. Oh, yu'al. Nor was it defective. What does that mean? Defective obscurely. Line 4. Yarwihi adlun. While narrated by an upright, trustworthy one. And we talked about the adl last time. The adl is, so here, Bismillah. Al-adl, the trustworthy one, or upright one. He is the one who has the attribute of adalah, trustworthiness. This one, this adl, it's valid also to, in the language, in the language, it's valid to call the trustworthy one adil, trustworthy. Just for your information. Okay. We talked about this trustworthy one last time, but there was something that did not cross my mind to mention to you, which is that the companions of the Prophet have a special rule here. This is important. The scholars of Hadith said, and we do indeed say, As-sahabatu kulluhum Udool. The companions, all of them are trustworthy. Well, what does this mean? This is Hadith terminology here, not legal terminology, not fiqh terminology here. This trustworthiness here for the companions is confirmed even if the companion is a major sinner. Here, the companions are different from others. And here is where some people did not understand the right thing to believe about the Sahaba. They took the statement of the Hadith scholars that all of the companions are trustworthy, and they thought that this meant all of the companions are pious. They're on the verge of believing that all of the companions are impeccable, but they can't say it. So, any companion who narrates a hadith from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, long story short here, any companion who narrates a hadith from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then his narration is acceptable. Does that mean that his narration is devoid of a defect, even on his level, coming from him as a sahabi? It's not impossible that the narration of the sahabi has something wrong in it, but the companions do not lie on the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wa ala alihi wasallam. All of their narrations are acceptable. And it's going to come. Remember this here, it's going to come back. Therefore, if we had a chain, a hadith from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and a companion is the one who took that hadith from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and then another companion took it from that companion, and then a tabi'i took it from a companion. Now let's say that this companion here, he skipped the companion between him and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He didn't mention him. This companion in the green box, he said, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, and in reality, he didn't hear it from the Prophet. Is this considered a connected chain or a disconnected chain? The scholars said this is a connected chain. This is considered a connected chain. And also, what if a tabi'i says, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, so he doesn't mention any companion between him and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, though he never met the Prophet alayhi salatu wassalam. Then this hadith is called mursal. It's called mursal hadith. this scenario, this blue scenario here. This blue scenario here, this is Mursal Hadith. Tabi'i raises the hadith up to the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam directly. How do we not define Mursal? How do we not define Mursal? Remember, I'm just going to come back, inshallah. We do not define Mursal as a hadith in which the Tabi'i skips the companion. Rather, we say the Mursal is the hadith in which the Tabi'i attributes the hadith to the Prophet without mentioning his intermediary. That's a better definition than saying it's a hadith in which the Tabi'i skips the companion. Because when you say it that way, then that means that we know that the one who's missing is a companion. And if we know for sure that the one who's missing is a companion, then would it be a disconnected chain? No. And what if we don't know which companion it was? Would it be a disconnected chain? No, because it wouldn't even matter which companion it is. All of the companions are trustworthy in their hadith narration. If we say Mursal hadith is a hadith in which the Tabi'i attributes it to the Prophet directly, if we say a Mursal hadith is a hadith in which the Tabi'i skips the companion, then we would be saying this is a hadith with a connected chain. Even if we don't know who the companion is. But when we say a Mursal hadith is a hadith in which the Tabi'i attributes the hadith to the Prophet directly without mention of his intermediary, then we are saying this is a hadith with a disconnected chain. And this is the better way to define it. Is this clear? Let me know if you have a question, please. Okay. So, Yarwihi Adlun, a trustworthy one narrates it. DaabiTun, but not merely trustworthy. Adlun DaabiTun. So, Adlun DaabiTun, here. Yarwihi Adlun DaabiTun. That's two descriptions for the same described one. Two descriptions for the same one. That's not two different ones. That's one person who has two descriptions. He's Adlun DaabiTun. As if there's a wow there. Adlun and DaabiTun. Adlun, trustworthy. DaabiT, accurate or precise. An mithlihi, from his like. While it is narrated, it's authentic while it is narrated by a trustworthy, precise one from his like. From his like means everyone in the chain is trustworthy and precise. Let's see what Sheikh Al-Jabarti wants to say here about the DaabiT. About the DaabiT, the precise one or the accurate one. He cites Hafiz ibn Hajar في شرح النخبة. قال الحافظ ابن حجر. He said, Hafiz ibn Hajar says in the explanation of An-Nukhbah, which we took. So the sentence he's going to read now, we took it in our lessons. وَالْمُرَادُ بِالضَّبْطِ ضَبْطُ الصَّدْرِ وَهُوَ أن يثبت ما سمعه بحيث يتمكن من استحضاره متى شاء. What's meant by ضبط, precision or accuracy, is chest accuracy, which is for one to fix what he has heard, to not fix, I don't mean repair by fix, I mean to make it firm. to make it rooted, to make it firm, stable. For one to stabilize what he heard such that he is able to recall it whenever he wants. Whenever he wants. So, like what? Like, think about your name, for example, or your address, or your phone number, or your whatever social security number or something, or whatever you might have in your different countries that are like some government number that you memorize. How much do you have to think to recall this? Isn't it that you recall any of these things that I mentioned for you immediately, whenever you wish? What if you said to someone, what's your name? And he says, oh, my name was, my name is Ricardo. So you say, oh, are you sure? Yeah, and it's something that he should have recalled immediately. Like you can recall your name, like you can recall your phone number, like you can recall your address. These scholars can recall all of Sahih al-Bukhari, all of it, every single letter in it. That's without an exaggeration, and that's just a little bit. They can recall all of Sahih al-Bukhari, all of Sahih Muslim, all of Abu Dawood, all of An-Nasa'i, all of Ibn Majah, all of At-Tirmidhi, all of Abu Dawood. That's what they started with. And they have way more. Anytime they wish. See these heavy lessons we narrate from the Shaykh? In those lessons, the Shaykh would just be sitting in his chair. Not he's holding a book, he's sitting in his chair. And they'll tell you something. It'll be just like it's in the book. Because the knowledge is in the hearts, not in the books. The knowledge is what you have, is what you take with you to the shower. So, Hafiz ibn Hajar said in the explanation of An-Nukhbah, what's meant by accuracy here is ضبط صدر, chest accuracy. وهو أن يثبت ما سمعه. It is for one to stabilize, to make firmly fixed what he has heard. What he heard here, not what he read. We're not talking about a page flipper here. What he heard, what that means he took effort to go and sit under teachers. But not only did he hear, he also memorized. He memorized, that means he took his knowledge back and he studied it. He committed it to heart. But he memorized it how? بحيث يتمكن من استحضاره متى شاء, such that he can recall it whenever he wishes, anytime. متى ما شاء, anytime whatsoever he can recall it. What have you, any one of you, what have you set as a goal for yourself to memorize? Have you tried to memorize anything? Yani, what you should memorize? Memorize Juz' Amma, for example. Might take you a couple months. It's a mission. Memorize a text, some text. Memorize something, just even one thing. Like if you're just regular layman Muslim and you have no hope to ever become a scholar, but get something, you study it and commit it to memory. So you can join the bandwagon of the Muslims who memorize, who study. That's Islamic legacy there, memorizing. So that's what's meant by DaabiT accuracy, the chest accuracy. What is the chest accuracy? For him to make firm what he heard such that he can recall it whenever he wishes. But there's another kind, so Ibn Hajar said, وَضَبْطُ kitab, and I usually say book accuracy. How about we say record accuracy? We could even say documentation accuracy. وهو صنايته لديه منذ سمع فيه وصححه إلى أن يؤدي منه. That is one's protecting what he has. Is protecting what he has since he heard it. So you have a book, you're studying in that book. That book is now priceless. Yani, you put your notes in there. You putting your harakat in your book and writing notes along the side in the margins, which that's a good idea. Some people, I think it's harder personally to take a book and then write your notes in the notebook, a different book, and then come back to your book. And then you want to write a note, you write it in a separate notebook. If you can, just a suggestion, write your notes right in the book you're studying, right in the margins. Just write little if you have to. You think you're going to get a lot of notes. And then when you go and share your knowledge, you don't have to carry two books. All your information is right there. And you develop a key for yourself. You put numbers. You're going to say like 1, put 1 here, and then put in your somewhere 1, and then you put your details there. So you know. Me, when I do something like that, I'll put a 1, and then I'll put a little arrow like this so that I know where this 1 is. It's up here, and then I put an arrow like this so that I can see where this 1 goes back to. That way, either way, in either direction, I will see how it goes. So, DaabiT Kitab, record accuracy, documentation accuracy. It is one's protecting what he has since he heard from it, since he heard in it, yani since he heard the document. So that includes your own notebook. Don't look down on that notebook. That notebook, it might have in it something, some mas'ala you wrote some time ago. If you open it, say, SubhanAllah, I needed that. وَصَحَحَهُ, and not just that he wrote down the information in his book and that's it. He verified it. He took his notes, he did his documentation, took his notes, and he checked it. He made sure all his vowels were right. He made sure all his information's right. He's got all his names right. إِلَىٰ أَنْ يُؤَدِّيَ مِنْهُ, until he's ready to convey from this document of his. When he's ready to convey from this document of his, then he will convey accurately. And his conveyance is acceptable. But what's the level of his hadith in that case? He's a Hasan narrator, that one. That one whose accuracy is mere record-keeping accuracy. He's an accurate record keeper. He's not a photographic memorizer. Yarwihi an mithlihi here. An mithlihi, from his like. Sheikh al-DaabiT wants to explain this part, which is on the left side here in the metin. An mithlihi, this part of the text here. متعلق بيرويه أي عن العدل الضابط من أول السند إلى منتهاه. Here, عن مثله, from his like, Sheikh al-DaabiT says, this word an here, this word an, which is controlling the word mithl. That's why mithl has kasra, because of the an. Mithlihi, an mithlihi, is kasra. Mithlihi at the end. So an is controlling mithlihi. But this word an from is linked to this verb, yarwihi. And yarwihi really has control over an. Yarwihi an mithlihi, while he narrates it from his like. While who narrates it? Al-adlu DaabiT. While the trustworthy, accurate one narrates it from his like. Narrates it from his like. So that's what he means when he says muta'alliqun bi yarwi. An mithlihi is linked to yarwi. He narrates it. From his like is linked to he narrates it. Because the meaning is he narrates it from his like. أي عن العدل الضابط, meaning from someone who is also trustworthy and accurate. من أول السند إلى منتهى, from the beginning of the chain until its end. معتمد, reliable. This trustworthy, accurate one, he's reliable. معتمد عليه بفتح الميم صفة لضابط. Reliable, yani relied upon. With the fatha on the meme, when you say mu'tamad with the fatha on the meme, it means the one who is relied on. Had it had a kasra, if you were to say mu'tamid with a kasra on the meme, then it would mean the one who relies on someone or something. This mu'tamad is not the one who relies on another. He is the one who is relied upon. He's reliable. Mu'tamad. يرويه عدل ضابط عن مثله معتمد, one who is reliable. عليه صفة لضابط. So Sheikh Al-Jabarti says this being reliable is a description of his being ضابط, accurate in particular. He's saying this being mu'tamad is an attribute of being DaabiT, accurate, the DaabiT. He's saying the mu'tamad refers to the DaabiT. Reliable this accurate one is. في ضبطه ونقله. Reliable في ضبطه, in his accuracy, وَنَقْلِهِ, and in his documentation. So perhaps I said before, فِي ضَبْطِهِ وَنَقْلِهِ, in his accuracy and his conveyance. Sheikh Al-Jabarti is saying نَقْلِهِ means here his record keeping. مُعْتَمَدٌ, he's reliable, what? فِي ضَبْطِهِ, in his chest accuracy, his chest accuracy, he is reliable in his photographic memory. وَنَقْلِهِ, and he's reliable in his accurate record keeping. So that means he is reliable whether he's an authentic hadith narrator or he's a Hasan, a fair hadith narrator. He is reliable. He says here, بِضَبْطِهِ لِمَا يُمْلِيهِ, he is reliable in his precision concerning what he dictates from memory, by memory. He's not holding a book, but it comes out accurately most of the time. People who don't memorize and they don't study, they are skeptical that there are people who memorize and study, especially to an extent that it preserves the religion. Well, the writing had a big hand in preserving the religion, though, not only the memories. But at first, it was the memories that kept the religion afloat. Until there was the move to start documenting the hadiths. They had already been documenting the Quran since the days of the Prophet, and some companions wrote hadiths. And eventually they started documenting the madhabs and the rules of the religion, documenting the fiqh and documenting the usul al-fiqh. And beyond that, they started documenting the Arabic language rules. So all that writing came afterwards. If the memories have carried this religion, then it is corrupt in their minds. Not at all. مُعْتَمَدٌ فِي ضَبْطِهِ لِمَا يُمْلِيهِ, he is reliable in his accuracy concerning what he dictates from memory. وَنَقْلِهِ مِنْ كِتَابِهِ لِمَا يَرْوِيهِ, and he is accurate in his documentation from his book. His what he narrates from his documents, what he narrates from his own documents, he is accurate. The one who has less precision. So let's stop there. How far did we get? We got all the way to the end of the fourth line here. Any question? سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.